All right, so moving right along, uh, to help bring us back on track, our next panelist or presenter actually needs no introduction. And I don't think I can do him justice with all his accolades and his achievements. We have Encik Azizi Na. Azizi is a widely respected Malaysian business leader with extensive experience in corporate management and in nurturing startup companies. Encik Azizi has been recognized as a supply chain specialist with focus on food safety standards and certification complete across various parts of the supply chain. So with that, over to you, Encik Azizi.
Hello. You can hear me, yeah?
Yes, we can hear you. Loud and clear.
Okay, thank you for the kind introduction. Do I start my talk now?
Yes, please.
Okay, right. Thank you very much. Well, it's quite a elaborate topic, you know. Malaysia and the continued development is an open-ended thing. Sometimes I had a big headache, you know, trying to put things together. Anyway, since you say it's continued development, then I can put in my own idea, irrespective. All right. Now, this will be my presentation flow. Of course, I start with the halal market first. Halal started as a niche or very conservative market. Suddenly it's gone to mass market. So there's a lot of changes structurally.
Azizi, could you share your screen with us, please?
Is that on? Is that okay?
Yes, it is. Fantastic.
All right. Thank you very much. All right. I'll the flow will be I will talk about the halal market first, starting from a niche market when it was still at the early phase. Now it's gone to mass market, and of course there's a lot of changes in the structure of the industry which nobody noticed, and this is why I think we're having some problem with delivery or in terms of integrity. Now, of course, the second part I will cover something on the problems, and I will define some problem statement. How do we need to redefine the industry back? Then I will move into the supplanting the digital technology over the old analog halal process, because the key driver will be the digital technology. And the other part is I will cover on the halal assurance. This is key to the whole thing now, because I'll show some slide where there's some violation of halal in a big way. And of course, there is an alternative way, trying to build a regional or global platform for halal using the single window initiatives. And then I will propose a physical hub, halal global supply chain hub. And of course, towards the end, I'll talk about some other disruptive element to the supply chain. Okay. Wow. Now I'm not able to move my slide now. Okay. You're quite aware about the size of the halal market. The Malaysian one is quite substantial now, from 51.9 USD billion to projected to be 82.5 billion by 2030. And the total halal market, actually, it's about, earlier I was covering food and beverage, but the full halal market will be 113 billion US by 2030. And at the moment, our halal export value is about 40.8 billion ringgit, or it's about 10 US billion. So basically, Malaysia is a net importer of halal product. Now, if you look at the global halal market, now the bulk of the market is in the Middle Eastern, North Africa, and the Asia Pacific, because these are the concentration of the Muslim population. And also most of these countries, particularly in Middle Eastern, they are more of a consuming country. They are not producing. Therefore, there's a big market over there, the demand over there. And as the other key drivers, the Muslim population is also expanding. It's 1.8 billion in 2019 and expected to go to 2 billion by 2030. So they form 24% of the world population. It's quite substantial. And I mentioned about the market, and the global market it is one big chunk, which is 113 trillion from 2018 to USD 2.5 trillion in 2024. So I think there's no dispute about the importance and the interest people have shown in halal. But the issue now is something we will cover in a while. Now, this is the overarching problem. There are major issues. Halal market is a bit fragmented. As you can see, they're operating in silos. Because you have three segments there: upstream, midstream, downstream, and all these are operating on their own. So there's no connectivity. Sometimes, if there's any product recall or if there is any crisis, it's so difficult to go back and check, where the thing went wrong. Okay? And halal integrity, it's another issue because a lot of countries are issuing halal certificate, particularly non-Muslim countries. They are bigger producer, but they also issue a lot of halal certificate. Whereas compared to Malaysia, we've got only one body, JAKIM, the certifying body. So is Indonesia, there's one body, MUI. So is in Thailand, SICOT. But there are countries that issue too many certificates and people get confused. I think partly they're trying to meet the other markets requirement in terms of halal certification. So that's the reason why there are so many variables. So this is a bit of an issue, causing a lot of confusion in the market. And of course, in the absence of a universal halal standard, that is the cause of it, because the Muslim thought leaders from the 4 different sects, they have not come to term to come up with a unified standard yet. So on the minor issue, there's some statement by Harun Latif, who was an MD of Orchard Way Capital, who said that 40% of all food and beverage consumed by Muslims worldwide is not authentically certified halal. That's quite a big statement. And I'll show you 3 cases of halal violation, which is really happening. And a lot of it's difficult to harmonize the standard right now because a lot of countries are declaring their own standard, which is a sovereign standard, as a de facto standard, and you need to have a lot of mutual trade agreement in order to harmonize the halal trade. And of course, right now, because of the broken supply chain, provenance is a big issue in terms of tracing the inputs or the ingredient where they come from, and in fact, there is an opportunity to integrate the halal process with the digital technology, example like using blockchain, but it's not happening yet. Maybe there is no offtake yet at the moment. All right. Now, that leaves me with one mission that you gave me to make Malaysia and the continued development. I like that thing. It gave me an open opportunity there as a regional and global halal supply chain hub. Okay, let's look at a bit of a problem there and challenge it. Problem, halal integrity. Can the conventional halal food chain infrastructure, we're talking about the existing analog pipeline, still maintain its resilience and integrity with the increase in global sourcing, production, advanced manufacturing, logistics in halal? Because market seems to progress, but the infrastructure not necessarily is happening. Now, then we got another issue of coming out with a unified halal certification. Now, I was also wondering whether with the 4IR or digital technology platform, which is very transparent and connected, can this be a denominator, a common denominator for the 4 Islamic sect group to agree, that halal supply chain must go digital, and whatever additional condition they want to do on the certification, they can put on it. At least we have the pipeline very clear and transparent. So that's one of the suggestions that I have. And now this is where I mentioned about the food fraud. Everybody is quite aware. I think in 2014, I think Cadbury has an issue with halal. There's a pork DNA found on their halal packet, and it took JAKIM about 9 days to understudy the whole thing and declare that the report is not true. In the meantime, Cadbury has withdrew all the chocolate. They have to, destroy some of it. I mean, most of it, and then they have to rebrand back, repackage back, and I tell you, the amount of money it cost them is a bomb. You're looking at something like US 32 million. The damage done. For that 9 days of delay. If you have on digital product recall, you can do it within few minutes or within 1 or 2 hours. You will know where the problem came from because you have the traceability system. Now, recently, we had a big problem in this country, Malaysia, where the imported beef was mentioned it was mixed with horse meat or kangaroo meat, and even disease meat. So that is still under investigation, I think, and this is why there's no transparency, or the supply chain is so important, particularly on the halal assurance. Now, PwC wrote as far back as 2016 about fraud on halal food. Nobody noticed this report. There was no statistic given. I didn't see, but the report was quite comprehensive about the issue of trust, in halal food. So I think there you are. The expansion of the halal market globally doesn't mean that everything is under control. So this issue we need to address. Now, removing the barriers to transform halal supply chain from the legacy or analog system to one of a pervasive digital technology, you need to reinvent the whole value chain. Now, I will start with the design the framework for the halal integrity. What is required to maintain the halal integrity? There are 4 pillars here. Traceability, I mentioned just now, is so important, and you cannot, if there's a product recall, remember the old method of one up, one down, for you to investigate. It will take weeks and months, and some of the data are paper-based. You can't verify sometimes. So that's why you need to go into digital, and smart contract and blockchain now will be very handy in this respect. Now, the other thing is issue about asset specificity. This is about when you have a halal pipeline, it has to be dedicated, whether it's a production line, whether it's in a farm, whether manufacturing, whether in storage, transportation, or even forklift has to be a segregated forklift. So that segregation is something can be quite difficult for SME or smaller company who doesn't have volume. And this is something we need to address, and I think there are ways and means to address using technology. Anyway, my platform of making changes in the chain will be technology. So now halal assurance. This is something that quite important also. What happened about 3 cases that I mentioned just now. If it is on blockchain or on digital, you can easily do online audit, and you can arrest the problem before it becomes a big issue. Because some of the content or data in blockchain is immutability, something that you can't change. So this is one way, to maintain the halal assurance. And of course, the other part is the trust and commitment, because along the supply chain, there are so many stakeholders, and some are useful, some are adding cost but not adding value. So we need to sort out some of the stakeholders within the halal supply chain, so that there won't be any information asymmetry. At the same time, you won't have any freeloaders in the chain. So that is the sort of framework to cover on the halal integrity. Now, when you go to digital transformation, of course, like many of you are aware that there are 4 elements here. You got AI plays a big part, where you need to do robotic, you need even machine learning. But at the same time, you even have neural network, something that when you go into image processing later on, which is quite important in a remote location, especially in a slaughterhouse. Big data. Without big data, there's no analytic. And then the Internet of Things, collecting data in the open. How do you turn image into data? So you need this Internet of Things, IoT, and of course cloud computing. Because of cloud computing, we're able to do so many things from end-to-end supply chain. Because of and you can even get the output from the handphone, as far as that. So I think these are the 4 elements that we need to consider. Now, when again, the whole supply chain, there are attempts by, even in Dubai, International Halal Accreditation Forum, they have about 37 members. They're trying to, create this mutual arrangement, mutual recognition, trade mutual agreement, and then plus make in Turkey, OIC, they are doing this halal quality infrastructure and standards for member countries. And Indonesia, they are looking to halal certification mandatory. They call it Halal Product Certification Agency. I remember when you send Malaysian halal product to Indonesia, you already got halal logo Malaysian. Now you have to put another Indonesian logo on it. So I think these are not really a transformation. These are very incremental changes, which is quite important because you're getting the religious leader to start talking to each other. Now, but there was a research paper written by Dr. Albert Tan and me, plus Gligor, about the using blockchain to cover the three important elements in the supply chain: upstream, midstream, and downstream. And I will mention it in a while, and their role and how we can put the supply chain connectivity end to end. And of course, I will bring in the single window issue later on, because this is very popular. 20 countries in the world are using it, including US. And there are so many bilateral agreement, sectoral agreement rather than the core agreement, core services, rather than custom, immigration. You got other sectoral agreement between industry in each country that they have a mutual agreement, example like halal certificate, health certificate. So this open the door for us to put halal blockchain, halal supply chain through the single window. All right. Now this is example of the existing, I call it analog supply chain. Beef, this is an example. I took beef because beef is one of the most complex and very long supply chain. And you can see on the left farm environment, and then you can see the from here grazing, fattening animal. Then you take it to the slaughterhouse. From there, if you want to do value adding, you want to go. Then you take this pathway. Otherwise, you go straight to the wholesale market, or you take it to the halal park, or to the butcher shop, and break the animal up into parts. I think. Now, and of course, from the warehouse, you can go down to the airport for export. So this is the conventional one. It's just to supplant it, to make it digital, but not necessarily complete, because there are certain overlapping function that can be that can be reduced to make the pipeline more efficient and dynamic. So I'm moving to the next slide. Now this is the horizontal look. Now if you notice here, there are three vertical market. This is fresh market, fresh beef. This is frozen. This is processed. So if you look at the beef supply chain from the farm right down to the supermarket display, is a very long one, and there is no company that I know of in the world that does end to end, from rearing cattle, including supplying animal feed, so on and so forth, and right down to this. So it is quite a long journey. And when you put in, when you put in halal, factor in it, it becomes more complicated. So if you look at the upstream here, I'm putting, let's say, food chain, a company that I'm more familiar, and then they will collect data. This is the most difficult part, because a lot of this part are people-based. You need to digitize it. That's why you bring in IoT, you bring in all those latest digital stuff to collect the information. And of course, once you get the meat frozen, salted and frozen, you can take it to the halal park or wherever manufacturing center. And here you will also do the testing on the ingredient, where they come from, the authenticity of the ingredient, so that they're halal. And of course, from here after manufacturing, you put in a different segregated warehouse and transportation and out to the market. So here you have what's halal. They are good at certifying the halal standard, certify the halal supply chain, and Haladina. These two are Singapore company. The Haladina is more confined to e-commerce. They are good in looking at the market and looking at the market requirement. So if you put these three parties together, then you can supply. You can cover the whole supply chain. But the issue now is who's going to manage these three parties? Who? Because looks like cross border. It's not within Malaysia alone. So this is something that we need to be aware of. The food chain is a company based in Italy, specialized in upstream. What's Halal, Singapore based, like I said, specialized in halal traceability and streamlining the halal processes, and Haladina would be more on the e-commerce. So those are the three players. Now, when you map the whole thing out, the first 2-3 slides, this is what you can see. This is the blockchain mapping. If you look at the vertical here, state, technology, data captured, and here is the horizontal supply chain, farm, animal harvested, processing, transit, and so on and so forth. So you bring them all together into one map. so that you know what exactly data you want to capture, what technology required, and how do you do the integration. So this is an example of, I'm bringing it down, from 20,000 feet down to about 4 or 5 feet, so that you can see exactly how the blockchain, operate on the ground. Okay, there are some improvement or some innovation going on, like Belfood in Indonesia. They are working with McDonald's on the food traceability. I think this year they're coming out with a master plan. They're looking into halal traceability using IoT, blockchain, fintech, and big data, standard accreditation between countries when they do halal trade. So, and they're moving into halal service provider, so which is quite good, rather than doing policy and industry development alone. Now, South Korea, Telco, KT, they have a company called B Square. They are also looking at simplify the halal certification authentication. I think this integrity part is quite important now. Everybody seems to be tackling that. And what's halal also doing the same thing. They are operating in Indonesia now, looking at the same thing, halal certification, enterprise solution, and authentication. Okay. Now, if you look at the future state, when you bring all the blockchain technology together, you look at this is the physical line. This is all the standards below it, whatever standard, you got from GAP, MS 1500, 1502, then you got the HACCP, good, what do you call that? Animal husbandry practices, HACCP, and then you got, many other standards, and then you have IoT connected, and connected to the ERP. This is where this thing, and then connect to the blockchain up here. And from the blockchain, you connect to the government agencies or regulatory bodies through a smart contract, and put it to the cloud. And this is what I meant just now earlier. The four pillars of digital transformation, from big data, cloud, computing, IoT, and AI. Now, there is another development. They call it a supply chain as a service. This apply to companies like SME. They cannot afford to have their own internal supply chain team. You can outsource it, and they go very detailed, including advice to the organization on how to improve on the halal pipeline, including visualization, including tracking and tracing. So this is something interesting development, and even the logistic you can delegate to 3PL to do it. So the company that produce food may just want to focus on food production, and the supply chain management and the logistic will be it can be outsourced. And of course, we're all familiar with food as a service. There's a lot of company like Grab, sending food out instead of online. Instead of offline, it's online. A lot of retail shops are not opening. So this pandemic has opened up a new frontier. So that again, to a certain extent, will disrupt the present supply chain. And you need to bring in some of this new input into the supply chain. So therefore, the time to change is now. All right. Now, I mentioned about the single window just now, because we can use that as a pipeline also to push halal through, because the single window, they have more or less sanitized part of the conduit. They have made clearance with so many government agency. You can see some I mentioned up to it. Example like here, New Zealand and Australia have already made special arrangement with Malaysia on the mutual animal health certificate, halal certificate, phytosanitary SPS, and then cities. This is the wildlife permit. So they are bringing in not just the government policy about custom immigration, but they also bring in some commercial element into the single window. And of course, single window, as you know, but by their function, they streamline efficiently. The import and export processor. They reduce the paperwork. Become single window document, and then you decrease the cost of operation. So they're already there. Why don't you take a piggyback right on that? And of course, when you have a blockchain platform, you're going between platform to platform, so it's quite easy. We're talking about interoperability using API. There's no issue. The system can talk to each other. All right. Now, this is another model of single window in US. They call it automated commercial environment, or ACE. And you can look one side, this is the trading partners, B2B. One side here are the partnered with the government agency, maybe 40, 50 government agencies. So they have ironed out all the agreement, whatever, and the paperwork in particular. Because you don't have to apply, each time you apply to different agency, you got to repeat the same form. This is all done in one. And in between there, you have this ABI, Automated Broker Interface. The same thing is happening while they are focused on border custom protection. They have this ABI to look after these two parties, so that their players they can operate independently. All right, that is now this is the example of the one in Malaysia, which is DagangNet. In fact, SealNet just launched their services yesterday, officially new services. I had the opportunity to speak to them. And of course, from the single window, you look at the manifest, all this airway bill and whatever bill, and then this special permit. This is important, the certificate of origin, yeah, especially when you deal with food, agriculture, this is key. And then of course, custom declaration, the payment, whatever payment duties due, and then the permit. Now, if you look at the permit here, there is grading, packaging, labeling under pharma, agriculture. So they have even incorporated that in this thing. And of course, the single window, they work with other ASEAN member service provider, the banks, insurance, port operators, free zone, authority, terminal operator, custom and duties, and other government agencies. So they are quite complete organization to encourage trade between countries. Now, this is an example of from a national to a regional ASEAN single window there. You get all these very interesting ATIGA formula, ACDD, FITO, everything is there, health certificate, food safety certificate, the HALAL certificate, and this is all the special requests from different countries based on sectoral requirement. So I think this is another channel that we can use, to trade halal globally. Now, of course, when I talk about virtual hub, it's a bit difficult to believe. So then I want to look into a physical hub, So I was looking for a site which is suitable for, the team to develop and then replicate it all over the world. So one area that I thought which is interesting, it would be Senai, because they have a Senai airport there, supposed to be halal airport, I was told. And then you got PTP there, you got Johor Port, and then of course you got across the causeway, you got Singapore with all the facilities in the world. Could this be another physical supply halal supply chain hub? So could it be? And if you look on the right side, all the features about logistic, agglomeration of service providers are all there. And so this is something that I've been looking at. And if you look into the function of this, what do you call that? Senai Hub, Senai Halal Hub, just look at the Michael Porter value chain analysis. You have all the verticals and horizontal services. And then you have the G2G there, Government Singapore and Malaysia, biosecurity, border security, biosecurity, environment governance, stakeholder, policy and regulation, and you get all the incentive up there. So I think the single window here is quite comprehensive in terms of using it as a hub, a physical hub, and link it with the virtual. Okay, now if we look at the whole single window ecosystem that you can see there, in the center will be the hub and surrounded by all the agency that you can link with with smart contract. And you can interface quite easily, efficiently. So I think this is just one example that I thought we could use to promote Malaysia as a regional and global halal hub. Now, this is one slide which I thought was quite important to discuss, because there is another development in the food industry. This is a report done by Rethink X. Now, they're looking at food as a software, meaning conventionally the cattle will be here, then you break into tissue, organ, ground meat, then you come out with a single molecule if you want to come out with insulin, collagen. But it's a very expensive process because and this is the pathway for milk pasteurized before you come into a single molecule like casein. Whereas under the if you are familiar with the Beyond Burger or Impossible Food, this is the pathway they took from precision fermentation, come up with single protein molecule, and then you boil up the product. That's why they call it food as a software. You can bring all the other ingredients in, to design the food maybe for people with high blood pressure, with diabetes. You can design food in a cheaper way, this way, compared to this method here. You want to extract insulin or you want to extract heparin, for open heart surgery. It comes from maybe 20, 30 kilos of tissue, or what do you call that, intestine, but you may get only 1 or 2 cc of heparin. But this one is a more efficient way. So this is the future way of producing meat, plant-based meat. Now, this can be done in a decentralized plant. You don't need a big farm, to rear the animal, to grow animal feed, and then this cattle will bring in all the methane, exhaust. They emit a lot of methane gas. This is cleaner, cheaper, and you'll be surprised. And I've just checked, the Impossible Burger is halal certified. Now, this is interesting in the sense, you look at how much changes they do to the supply chain. You don't go around and see big farm anymore. You can see this decentralized plant producing plant-based food. And this is good for the Middle Eastern. They don't have farm. They need to bring this factory, bring in the single molecule and build up the food from there. So you change the dynamics and the whole thing about halal food production or supply chain, so on and so forth. So this is something to watch. And I think Singapore Temasek is an investor in this company too, Impossible Burger, and so is China. So I think people are looking into it, and I've tasted it. I bought it myself. Though expensive now. Okay, you can get away with it, but it may not be as good as the original beef. But why not? It's healthier. So this is one aspect of future disruption, which I thought you can creep into the halal supply chain. Okay, my thing. In conclusion, I already mentioned just now, halal started as a niche market, gone into mass market, and the growth is so unprecedented, and they've forgotten to look at the pipeline. How strong the pipeline is to cater for the burgeoning of halal market. And of course, now we are stuck with legacy issue. How do we digitize the whole system so that we become more efficient, more with a lot of convenience as well. And maybe need to inject digital transformation in it. And of course, the issue about governance of halal integrity, that is also quite important. That can be handled by technology also, because you can get information quite rapidly, and you will know what happened. You get all the data to tell you what happened. Along the pipeline, and of course you democratize the chain, because sometimes they accuse Allah of being a bit biased. In the sense, it's like a protected business. It's not so so nowadays you can democratize, because you can bring in supply chain as a service, food as a service, and so forth. And of course, the presence of the single window, they can help to extend the halal supply chain to another dimension. And of course, we need to be very conscious about this plant-based halal food and how they disrupt the industry, including the supply chain. So with that, except my takeaway point is, again, is to remind the leaders of the Muslim of different sect, of 4 sect, about having to agree, to come up with a what they call that, a universal supply halal certification, so that you can create less confusion. Just like if you have ISO, or if you have global gap. Now, these are standard thing, and it's a bit easy, to do assessment. And of course, all these standards are non-tariff barrier, but they're also part of market access. Without the standard, you have no market access. So that's why certification is quite important for market access purposes. And also, there are many pockets of halal park coming up now. In Indonesia, you got one. I think China, you have Yangliang in Xi'an, China. Western Cape, South Africa, you have halal industrial park there. And then you have in Dubai, halal trade marketing center. And then one agrics, I think it's Singapore company, they are quite busy in Africa also, Korea. So I think there are pockets of this thing that you can link up into a consortium or knowledge exchange on halal. And of course, the last part is how to bring up the SME on board, into this global halal global supply chain. So I think this digital thing and supply chain as a service will be helpful. So thank you very much. I end my presentation.